Good morning, everybody. I'm Stacy Renee. Today we're going to talk about love is not an obligation. Okay, so I hope that if you like that topic and if you feel this video is helpful, that you will share it. I want to first say, before I begin anything, is that I want to thank all of you who have subscribed to my channel. I hope that I can bring you the topics, the things that you know. Some of you, I know who you are, and I'd like to say your name, but I don't know that you feel comfortable with that. So I'm just going to tell you I have much love and appreciation for you, that I know who some of you are. And I'm so happy that you're a part of this channel and for your support. So I really want to start with that. And I also want to say that I don't go by algorithms. I am technically challenged to a sense, and I have people that say, hey, your video, your content's great, whether they watched it or not. Do you want to get more subscribers? But the thing is that I try to come to you authentically, so I'm not trying to fakefully get subscribers, people that don't know me or know my thing. And I know that other people can, it's not just all about that they can get the SEOs that align with what I talk about here, but I just really think that it's more helpful to do this genuinely and authentically. So like I said, if you like this content, this topic, these topics, how I present these topics, then please like, subscribe, and encourage others to do so too. All right? So back to this topic. Love is not an obligation. So I had to deal with this myself, because sometimes we create this and we don't even know that we're creating it. We don't know. If we knew better, we would do better. And I say this all the time. So let's start. On to our topic. I think that many of us end up sadly disappointed in love when we feel that it is an obligation, and that I made a video about being wanted or needed, I believe. It's somewhere in here. I've been doing these videos for some years now, but I fell off for a while and I'm back. So I know for me, I prefer to be wanted rather than needed. But there was a time in my life, though, that I didn't realize and know the difference, and it was in my codependence. I found out I was codependent, y'all. I, of course, did not realize that I was creating an atmosphere of being needed, and that wasn't the same as being wanted. And unconsciously, I was trying to make another feel obligated through the disguise of security for myself. Does anyone relate to that? The problem with creating that for me was I still didn't feel secure. I just wanted security, but I still didn't feel secure. And I think my soul felt a little guilty, as a love like that is not a soul connection, but needy. And even though I tried to reflect that I was totally independent, and much to my arrogance, of being pissed, because I looked self-sufficient, but got no help. See, so it seemed like I was there for everyone else, but no one was ever there for me. Isn't that sad? I'm not saying it don't happen. We have a part, and see, that's the thing. This would later lead to resentment. Resentment doesn't feel good, y'all. So then the object, the person, I didn't see them as their own person, but that of a person that I create, but that of my desire. It began to repulse me because they weren't who I thought they were. Hell, I repulsed myself that I had done that again, So for me, it had begun as a desire for sex and physical attraction to someone, but unbeknownst to me, I was attracted energetically to these people to learn a lesson too. Lessons to blessings. What did I write about that the other day? Oh no. Well, I wrote karma is not good or bad, but it's a lesson turned to blessing, So I was unconscious and I was unaware that I was mirroring the pain and trying to repair what I saw growing up as far as relationships were concerned, and that I was in a fantasy world. Do y'all relate, or did I lose anyone yet? All right, this called for my conscious awareness and healing. You see, I had already sobered up. I'd been sober for 5 years before I became aware of my codependency and my decisions, So just being clean wasn't enough. It's good to abstain so we can clear our minds and quit creating these fantasies. But once we can't create these fantasies, this is where a lot of relapses come in, when we start blaming a relationship and the inability to cope with loss, whether it's a breakup, whether it's a death, whatever the loss is. I've seen people relapse over the loss of their beloved pets. I've seen people relapse over a good many things, and most of the time it's loss. Sometimes it's even though when things get to going really good that they get this arrogance that I talked about, that we sometimes get at 5 to 7 years of thinking we should be somewhere else where we're not. I believe I've talked about that. So I experienced the most, transferences of addiction. I've worked with all the addictions. I currently work now with food, pretty much with food addiction, but there is a transference of addictions, and I work with pop recovery systems, and we help people have this psychic shift and change that I'm going to be talking about here shortly, okay? And so, many blame their relationships and the inability to cope with loss. So like I said, I work with food addiction, drugs, alcohol, love, shopping, sex. I've experienced them all myself except for gambling, and that's a yet, right? I stay out of Vegas or all those other places, so that's the first key. So we come to avoid a point in developing our consciousness where we are vigilant, and then as our consciousness grows and develops, we're not what I would describe as vigilant, but knowing who we are and being mindful to our truths. This comes from us taking an inventory and working on my codependence and taking a deeper dive into what was driving me. It is our desire to love and to be loved, right? So I had learned to accept breadcrumbs, and that means if anyone was nice to me, that I became their puppet until it got uncomfortable. Because my soul knew who I was and that I was settling, and I didn't know any better. This is when recovery is essential for us to do our recovery inventory, because if we would have known better, we would have done better. This is where the unconscious and the conscious meet. And it's a process, not an event. It's a series of ahas. Just one aha won't fix it. No, it's a series. When we're growing out of things, it takes time. In addiction is continuing and progressive, but so is recovery. So I don't say I'm recovered. I have 27 years in recovery, but I don't say I'm recovered yet. Now, some people say you're recovered because we do lose a desire to use these things, but sometimes we can forget, and that's the thing, is not forgetting, okay? So it's a series of ahas. If we continue on a growth path and a healing path, we'll have this series of ahas. Okay, so it's easy to blame someone else, but we can't truly empower ourselves by blaming someone else. To empower ourselves is to realize we played a part and why, so that we can heal that part of ourselves as we acknowledge that we try to manipulate others through creating obligations out of being needed. We did not succeed in gaining the security we long desired, because that security is within ourselves, okay? We need to recognize that in most cases, no matter how good another person is that they can't heal us without our cooperation, and that can't be without the development of consciousness. Our wounds are our own, and no one else can know how that feels, so it's up to us to heal. How are we doing so far? Okay, so one way to tell if you're having an obligatory relationship is to be truthful with yourself. And when you're saying, I put all the work into this relationship, and if I put all this work into myself, I would be so much more. I know I did that many, many times. And we feel abandoned sometimes when we put all the work into the relationship, and then the person gets better, and then oftentimes they've outgrown us. They decide they want to keep getting better, and we're just at this specific point. So sometimes I'm explaining to people, when someone does do this to them, or when when this happens, is sometimes it's our capacity to love is just stunted, or it's their capacity to love. So when we do our own inventory, we get to see if it's our capacity to love. Where could we do better? Where did we settle for breadcrumbs? This is the thing. So it's about acknowledging that it's not our fault if we settled for breadcrumbs. That, we can just grow from it. We didn't know better, okay? We create victims out of ourselves, and I'm not saying that these things don't happen, that you deserved it or that you weren't hurt. I know I was, but I could not change my life and feel good about my life when that happened, right? So I had to figure out a way to change my life and feel good about my life and quit putting all this energy into other people, and this called for this inventory I keep talking about. I had to look at where I fell short in my life and what happened, you know, and define and learn how I feel and what I wanted and imagined, and instead of projecting these things onto someone else who may have told me and showed me totally different from the start. This has happened, you know, oh, I'm too good for you. I've learned when people tell me I'm too good for you or I'm out of your league to believe them. See, because I want somebody who's confident. And sometimes this doesn't tell me that this person is confident. So this is why sometimes I attracted people who cheated. Because I was healing from an emotionally unavailable father, you know. And, you know, my parents had their own problems. So, anyway, I had to learn the realities, the good and the bad. I was still a good person and I did a lot of good things. That's what my people pleasing was about, right? I was a good person. I just wasn't clear of my intentions and motivations. And that is what I needed to care about, not making obligations to prove that I was worthy of love, right? Okay, so I share this because I want you to know that you are so worthy of love. And I hope that this has been helpful. And if you would like more information on how you can get yourself out of a codependent rut, please reach out to me. It is my hope to help you learn what I've learned. I've learned what my values, dreams, goals, and desires are instead of fulfilling others, right? I know that I'm worthy. I do call myself a fairy goddess mother because I had a fairy goddess mother that helped me to look at myself and how I felt about things and to define what security was to me instead of just imagining security. I had to kind of imagine in a way to feel it because, as I told one of my patients, my therapist asked me, so what do you want in a relationship? And I've told you all this too, and I'm like, because I hadn't seen a healthy relationship in my life, you know, not that I knew of, or I didn't get to see it very long if I saw it. So I was like, and she said, do you want to feel cherished? And I'm like, yeah, I want to feel cherished. And she's like, well, what does that look like? And I'm like, So I'm saying that we have to start seeing this because we can't step up to that vibe and know what it is until we start really watching and not comparing, just observing and not comparing. You see? So in my hope, I hope to help you learn what I've learned. That I've learned what my values, my dreams, and my goals and my desires are, like I said, without fulfilling others. I can help them, but this has to understand when I have a partnership where I'm creating a codependent relationship. My recovery lets me know that I'm worthy and valuable and that I have a lot to offer, but don't have to be a chameleon or compromise myself or compare to anyone else. This is self-love, and true love is about being able to love yourself while you love someone else, that you're both interested in the relationship. You see, I'm not saying or guiding people to divorce. In fact, I'm hopefully reminding you that you have the answers to your problems and are so worth taking your inventory. So how many of us blame spouses for our unhappiness? In fact, you may be able to heal your relationship. It takes two, though. You can't do it all by yourself. So your relationship starts with you. And if you get lost, it's no one else's fault. Or it may be, but that won't heal you. You know, getting clear about what you want. They say pain is the greatest motivator. So how do we begin this process of the inventory I keep talking about? One is to ask yourself what you want. You know, I know for me, and I guide people to tell them to write these things down on a piece of paper, what you want. Not what you don't want. What do you want? Because everything you want is on the other side of what you don't want. But if you keep talking about what you don't want, you're going to create from what you don't want. So what do you want? Like I said, I want somebody who's confident. Somebody who's confident isn't going to have the attention of all these other people. They're not going to have to, you know, put on a show, you know. And that's what I want is somebody who's authentic and genuine and, you know, feels good about themselves and knows what they want. So ask yourself, what do you want? Are you aligning with it? Now be honest. You want security, and security, like I talked about earlier, you know, I used to tell my therapist, she'd say, what do you want? And I'd say, I want security. And she'd say, no, you don't, because I wasn't making decisions that indicated that I wanted security. I was still coming from those wounds and the pain and still doing the same thing, expecting different results. So 3, I had to look at the role. What role did I play? What role do you play in these things? When you want security, are you looking for somebody to take care of you? Because this is the deal. Number 4, did I want someone to take care of me and create an obligation? Because oftentimes we take care of other people hoping they will take care of us. But what? Sometimes they get up and leave. Sometimes they stay but remind us of when they do one little thing. And we want to say tit for tat and this for that, but that's not mature. That's not a mature relationship. So I would love to hear your answers to these things. If you want to post them in the comments, feel free, or you can email me at stacyrainick@gmail.com, which is in the description. I want to thank you all once again, those who are new subscribers, and if you feel that this is helpful, remember I don't follow algorithms, so if you would, kind of kindly share it with somebody you think that it would help. Do you know someone who's creating obligations, thinking that it's love? I did it. Some of us do it. Awareness is the remover of obstacles, and some of us are creating our own obstacles. All right, so I hope this video has been helpful. Thanks again to all the new subscribers, and I look forward to seeing you all next time. As always, again, if you have any ideas for topics, please post them in the comments or email me at that same email address. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you next time. All right, thank you very much. I wish you much love and peace. It's Sunday. No, I got a little bit of makeup on, but all right. Thanks. Bye.